Behold! The big Stetson!
Good evening, and welcome to the Under Night In-Birth 2 Complete Character Overview. This video was intended for newer players who are still familiarizing themselves with the game's roster and deciding on who to main. The Hollow Night is filled with dangerous in-births and voids alike, so you would be well advised to learn of the threats you will be facing and those with whom you may want to forge an alliance. We will be going over each character's unique strengths and weaknesses, as well as the specific game plan each one brings to the table, and the moves they use to set that plan in motion. I will be using numpad notation to refer to different special moves, but I will also show the input for each move as I talk about it here, and place definitions for fighting game terms and other notes here. If you tend to choose your main based on tier list placement, don't worry about that. Genuinely, this game is incredibly balanced. I feel like every character could feasibly win a top 8. If any of these characters pique your interest, check out the Know Your In-Birth YouTube channel. I'm not affiliated with them, but they go way more into detail on how to actually play the characters. In the description, I've also put links to the game's Izumi wiki, and a couple Discord servers where you can find people to play with, and some other learning resources. With all that out of the way, let the night begin.
よし、始めようぜ。
Hyde is a foolhardy but otherwise ordinary high school student who finds himself thrust into the role of this game's protagonist. With his newfound power, he utilizes a well-rounded, Shoto-esque moveset similar to that of most other fighting game protagonists, but puts his own spin on it that helps bolster his offensive capabilities. His black orbital fireball is incredibly versatile and character defining. At a cursory glance, it seems like a regular fireball, demanding the opponent's attention when at a distance and giving Hyde a shield he can use to get in closer. But upon further inspection, you'll notice that Orbiter can be followed up with one of 3 moves. Pressing A while the Orbiter is out will push the opponent away on block and knock them up for a combo on hit. Pressing B performs a lunge and is his most common combo ender. And pressing C creates a full screen laser that lets you punish the opponent during neutral at the cost of 100 meter. On top of throwing out orbiters to contest neutral, he can also use Shadow Scare to poke the opponent in the mid-range, destroy enemy projectiles with his 2FF, and close the distance quickly with 6-6-C. Once Hyde lands a hit, he can convert into a combo using his Vacant Shift Rekka series and carry the opponent to the corner, where Hyde's offense truly shines. His normals all provide decent range and stagger windows, and most of them have a unique trait that lets them deal chip damage on block, which should make the opponent antsy and more likely to fall for your frame traps. On top of that, he has easy-to-access plus frames using Charge 5C, the B version of Shadow Scare, and A Orbiter, letting him keep the opponent locked down for as long as he wants. In terms of actual mix-ups, Hyde does leave something to be desired. His only overhead is incredibly slow and punishable on block, so you're mostly going to use Strike Throw to open people up. Thankfully, said Strike Throw is notably stronger than usual, as his throw grants you a full combo in the corner, and his aforementioned stagger pressure and resetting ability give you plenty of opportunities to present the throw as a threat. Hyde isn't a slouch on defense either, as he has a meterless reversal, one of the best backdashes in the game, and a potent 3C anti-air that grants him access to some strong option selects. If you're looking for a well-rounded toolkit that lets you turn up the pressure as you get better at the game, then take up the insulator and charge into the fray with Hyde. Some high-level players to watch include Defiant, Isaac, and Ryojin. Immortal princess trapped in the body of a nimble young girl, Linne takes the Shoto moveset and adds her own speed-oriented flavor to it. She excels at forcing scrambles at close to mid-range and closing distances quickly using her unique mobility options, such as a double jump, the dive kick, one of the fastest dash speeds in the game, and a roll that can pass through the opponent and even slip past some attacks. If that didn't make her difficult enough to catch, she sports 2 invincible reversals. One is a typical dragon punch, but the other is a spot dodge that can be cancelled into either an attack or a roll, making it useful for escaping the corner or getting past ranged pokes. To balance out all of the speed, Linne lacks any way to threaten the opponent from long range. Even her fireball, Kuga, dissipates after a certain point. But what it lacks in range, it more than makes up for in utility. Both the grounded and air versions of Kuga can be dash cancelled, even on whiff, giving her yet another tool to help her get in. Grounded Kuga can also be followed up with an attack, which forces the opponent to guess on whether you'll frame trap them or take your turn each time they block it. Much like Hyde, Linne mainly relies on strike throw and frame traps to open people up, but this game plan is made extra threatening thanks to the solid range and frame data on her normals, her dash speed, and her ability to reset pressure using a Kuga or a Tiger Need air Kuga, both of which leave her plus on block. Upon getting a hit, she can confirm using her Mugen Rekka series or Hien Lunge. The former comes with 3 different follow-ups and can also be used to end pressure safely, while the latter gives her a fairly weak high-low mix-up in the form of B Hien and provides her with projectile invulnerability using C Hien. Her final special move, often referred to as Helmbreaker, is rather niche in its usage, mainly serving as a way to stall her air momentum and bait out anti-airs, or as an ender to her meter-dumping combos. While she's very much at home in the air, Linne doesn't have a dedicated anti-air button, which forces her to either commit to something like a spot dodge or dashing FF, or meet the opponent in the air if they choose to jump. If you're looking for a plethora of tools that'll let you adapt to and speed blitz any opponent, then walk into the night with Linne. Strong players to watch are Nephros, Revert, and Miller 2B.
Waga gosou no sabi to nare!
Though the body of Linne's guardian may be as old as she is, it is still brimming with strength, ready to slash and grapple with anyone who's up for the challenge. As you might have picked up from my choice words, Waldstein is Underknight's big body grappler. While those big meaty claws of his are indeed used for command grabbing, they also help him circumnavigate some of the core weaknesses that come with the grappler archetype. One such weakness is his abysmal mobility. Wald's walk speed is among the slowest in the game, and his dash is even worse. His only quick form of forward movement is his assault, which is a universal mechanic. So in a game like Underknight where so many characters can zone you out, how does Wald compete? By zoning you out himself, of course! Most of his normals serve as massive mid-range pokes that come with a special property allowing them to destroy enemy projectiles. And that property extends to his full-screen shocklight special and force-function rock throw. The former requires meter to convert him into a combo, but the latter can convert meterlessly if it is charged or Wald has Vorpal. He also has some solid anti-airs that vary in speed and range, with his 623 special being particularly notable for its horizontal and vertical reach. Do not be mistaken, Waldstein still wants to get in close. His big reach just allows him to bide his time until he can find the one big hit that'll let him snowball his way into victory. During offense, Wald has many ways to get the opponent to sit still. 236B is an overhead that will swat any opponent trying to jump away, and he can create plus frames on block using 1A, 4B, or his 214 clap special. Once the proper amount of conditioning has been applied, he can finally go for his command grab. Durhuborin! Sure, it doesn't do as much damage as a Potemkin Buster or Spinning Pile Driver, but it certainly gets the job done. especially if he uses chain shift to convert into a combo. 360B is much longer reach than 360A, but the opponent will always be able to tech out of it if they didn't press a button or shield beforehand. Performing a double circle instead of the usual 360 will cause the grab to deal extra damage and give a better knockdown. While Wald's offense and neutral are quite formidable, his hulking, sluggish body becomes a burden when on defense. His A-normals are by far the slowest out of the whole cast, so mashing out often isn't an option. However, he does have 2 metered yet situational reversals, and the single fastest move in the game in the form of 360A. If you're looking for a character strong enough to crush anyone and fortunate enough to get up close and personal, then Waldstein will be more than up to the task. Players to watch include Smiles, Tennyson, and Watanabe Sacho.
The rampaging sadomasochist Carmine sports oppressive space control and okizeme that'll make any opponent's blood boil. Most of that oppression is centered around his ability to create puddles. Moves such as his 236 pinwheel, his plus on block ground spike, and his 6B projectile, which covers both the ground and the air, leave behind one of these puddles after they're used. The next time he uses a special move, this puddle will activate and perform a smaller attack corresponding with the special that activated it. Combined with its ability to reposition these puddles using his force function, this can extend Carmine's effective range dramatically and make his neutral control downright stifling. While it may be tempting to spam these moves the entire match and bombard the opponent non-stop, you must keep in mind that Carmine uses his own blood to fuel his offense, meaning that using these moves will cost him a tiny sliver of health each time. The more he exhausts himself trying to keep the opponent out, the more fragile he becomes, making the opponent's comeback all but guaranteed. It's up to the Carmine player to secure a knockdown and maintain their momentum in order to prevent that comeback from ever happening. And thankfully, that's where Carmine excels. His pinwheel serves as a great okizeme tool, forcing the opponent to sit still as Carmine begins his offense. And with help from the puddle he gains afterwards, he can maintain his turn near indefinitely. With meter, he can end his combos with 2-2C, giving him a ton of time to set up his scariest Oki options. His 2-1-4 special normally fires off a blood crystal, but when the button is held, it plants a bomb that only detonates when you release said button. This makes Carmine's pressure incredibly terrifying to mash against, and creates opportunities to go for mix-ups not otherwise possible, like a strike throw situation that beats option selects, or super fast overheads like rising JA or 6C that become even harder to react to with a pinwheel on screen. Though he is something of a glass cannon, Carmine isn't completely helpless on defense, as he sports a variety of metered reversals. One is a more standard DP, one is a command grab that side swaps and restores health, and the other may not be invulnerable but does evade most attacks and leaves him at an advantage on block. If you take pleasure in watching your opponent suffocate under the weight of constant mix-ups, then your time with Carmine will be nothing short of a bloodbath. High-level players to watch include Notes, Vincent, and 2GB Combo. Passing off as merely one of Hyde's classmates, Orie secretly works for the Lydtkreis, an all-women organization of warriors who patrol the night and keep the streets safe. Her weapon of choice, the rapier, says a lot about her personality as well as her playstyle. In-game, she wants to play a traditional, grounded neutral game, using her superbly fast walk speed and lengthy backdash to maintain proper spacing and keep the opponent from ever getting a foothold. Once the opponent overextends, she can capitalize on the opening using her signature move, Divine Thrust. It usually requires meter or a chain shift to confirm into a combo, but either way, it gets the job done and lets her take her turn. While she can function well at any range, she really wants to stay within the mid-range, where she can poke with 2B, 5B, or her 2 and 4 specials, which summon a holy construct known as Thanatos, and comes with various follow-ups. These follow-ups can either frame trap, create frame advantage, or launch the opponent up for Orie to combo using her force function leap. Off of some knockdowns, she can call upon Thanatos to place an orb that will hit the opponent on their wake-up or destroy projectiles that pass through it. The metered version is especially strong, rewarding Orie with over a second's worth of lockdown and creating an opportunity to perform mix-ups not otherwise possible. Orie's pressure is also quite potent, with most of her C normals moving her forward, and her notorious 6B overhead presenting a constant threat of mix-up, especially since 4C into a low can potentially confuse people who are looking for the overhead. One of her few weaknesses comes in the form of her strike throw, something that's normally super strong in Under Night. Her throw knocks the opponent back fairly far, preventing her from getting any kind of okizeme when it's performed at mid-screen, and forcing her to rely on the corner to really get her offense started. Other than that, she's fairly well-rounded and can hold her own on defense as well, boasting a meterless DP and a 5-frame 2A. If you're looking to play patiently and win the grid cycle before picking apart your opponent with precision, or you're just a fan of the Persona games, then enact your justice with Orie. Strong players to watch include Mr. B, Nishine, and Suna.
Bartender and former member of Amnesia, Gordeau wanders through the night, striking fear into his enemies from both long range and up close. One of the first things you'll notice about him is his ability to manifest a scythe out of thin air. With this, he's able to keep a tight grip on the mid-range, snagging opponents with moves like 5C, 2C, his force function, Mortal Slide, and the infamous. While his keep-away game is strong, Gordeau does not want to stay at long range, as some of his moves are multi-hitted and give the opponent opportunities to shield and steal the grid cycle from him. In order to close the distance, he can charge in with 6-6C, spend meter to make his Mortal Slide plus on block, or land a hit and convert into a knockdown. Once he's up close and personal, he can create some terrifying pressure situations. 5B is especially strong during offense, as it moves him forward and leaves him at 0 on block, making his pressure sticky and ambiguous. He can also create frame advantage at will with 2-2A and threaten the opponent with overheads in the form of 6B and charged 5C. The biggest threat he presents, however, is his strike throw. His regular grab is among the rare few that can lead into a combo at mid-screen and carry the opponent to the corner. And his command grab, Assimilation, though dealing much less damage than a normal throw, steals the opponent's grid when it connects and adds an extra layer of mix-up due to it being an integrable command grab. Since nearly all of his combos end with Assimilation, Gordeau's control over the cycle can be overwhelming. Oftentimes, a Gordeau player has to be as greedy as the character himself, since a lot of his strengths are centered around his ability to call out specific habits from the opponent, meaning he'll have to take more risks if he wants to keep reaping the rewards. His defense further exemplifies this go big or go home playstyle, as he doesn't sport traditional defensive tools like a meterless reversal or a fast button to mash out with. What he does have is a variety of meter reversals,
each of which cover different situations and require different responses from the opponent. Choosing the right reversal can itself be a pretty big gamble. If your favorite aspect of fighting games is getting into the opponent's head and siphoning away any hope they had of escaping your clutches, then reap the souls of your enemies with Gordeau. Players to watch include Noctis, Kuon, and StarX_.
この夜のすべて食らい尽くしてくれよ。
Though he was once human, now Merkava is merely a victim of the night, left to roam the streets in search of his next meal. He tends to stalk his prey from a distance, using massive pokes such as 5B, 5C, Jumping B, and 214A to harass the opponent and keep them right where he wants them. Jumping will not save the opponent either, as Merkava can snag them out of the air from both up close and long range. His grounded movement can be cumbersome, but that's because his natural habitat is in the air. Like a crow circling over its prey, he can use his unique flight mechanic to stay far out of reach and pester the opponent with fireballs, waiting for just the right opportunity to swoop in and strike. He's also capable of using his flight during offense. He can cancel into his flight from charged 2FF or his 3C overhead, and when flying low to the ground, he can trick his prey with an ambiguous high-low mix-up. Merkava does not often take flight during pressure, however, as he knows he'll give the opponent an opportunity to mash out or escape. Instead, he waits until he can confirm a hit in neutral, at which point he will end his combo with his 2-2 special, which summons a worm that can follow the opponent and attack on their own. With the worms locking the opponent down as they wake up, Merkava is free to use all sorts of mix-ups to crack open and devour his prey. On top of high-low mix-ups, Merkava can use his equally deadly strike throw. His worms will also allow his grab to deal extra damage, and if the opponent attempts to tech out, they'd simply be falling into Merkava's trap, as he can use 623A to blow up throw techs and option selects, and leave himself +1 on block. While his own wing condition is strong, Merkava can struggle when he's the one being preyed upon. That isn't to say he doesn't have a few tricks up his sleeve though. His metered reversal leads to a full combo on hit, letting him get a knockdown and turn the tables in an instant. And while his mash-out options are slow in comparison to other characters, they are quite unconventional and require the opponent to stay on their toes and call them out directly. If you're hunting for an unorthodox character and are willing to bide your time and wait for the opponent to fall into your lanky, flailing clutches, then abandon your humanity with Merkava. Players to watch include April, Klim, and Onyx Dude.
System 起動。オーダーの遂行を開始します。
Vatista is an autonomic nerve who exists only to complete her mission and keep watch over the night. To emphasize her inhuman nature, she functions fundamentally differently from any other character, being Under Night's one and only charge character. All of her special moves require some button to be held before they can be released. Like most charge characters, Vatista comes with a fireball that uses a back then forward charge, and a down then up charge that serves as an anti-air and invincible reversal. These two moves by themselves create a formidable zoning game plan with projectiles to play keep away with, and a built-in countermeasure against opponents trying to jump over said projectiles. Vatista comes with many other functions as well, as she is one of the rare few characters to feature a forward then back charge and an up-then-down charge. The former creates a full-screen laser that supplements her zoning tremendously, and the latter is a drilling dive kick. A-drill is mostly a combo tool, but B-drill works as an overhead and creates mix-up situations that can be hard to react to if it's performed close to the ground. This drill works in tandem with hard-to-contest gap-closing moves like 6-6C and Jumping C to give an otherwise basic zoner a whole new layer of rushdown capability. However, the move that truly ties her game plan together is her gems. Holding down any button for a set duration, then releasing it will place a gem on the screen. These gems don't do anything on their own, but hitting them with any of Vatista's normals or specials will cause them to detonate, launching the opponent on hit and creating frame advantage on block. This single move gives Vatista unprecedented levels of versatility and offensive power. She can use a gem explosion as a meaty on the opponent's wake-up, create frame advantage off of mix-ups in situations where she would otherwise have to spend meter to keep her turn, and even turn neutral into a literal minefield. For a character whose inputs would normally restrict her options, the possibilities of what she can do are surprisingly vast. That's not even getting into her shield and float, the only two specials that don't require a charging input. On top of their obvious purposes of blocking attacks and floating in the air respectively, they also allow her to bypass the charging process entirely and unleash her specials at the mere press of a button. Skilled players can use this to unleash specials in rapid succession, ignoring the delay that comes from having to charge each one. If you are accustomed to charge inputs and are looking for a master of all trades that puts her own unique spin on them, then join Vatista as she observes the night for all of eternity. Players to watch include Stranger, Anklegator, and Foxo42.
Koyoi, 我が刃でこの歴史を断ち切る。
The stealthy and stoic Seth enters the night with his twin dagger eliminators in an attempt to protect Linne and lift her curse, becoming rivals with Hyde in the process. As a member of the Nightblade clan of assassins, Seth fills the role of Underknight's pixie character, an archetype defined by the likes of Chip from Guilty Gear. Both ninjas are known for their top-of-the-line speed, which can overwhelm any opponent in the right hands. Seth's mobility tools include, but aren't limited to, a quick dashing speed, a backdash that can send him airborne, a fast fall that can lead to 2 different follow-ups, his 623 special which sends him flying if performed in the air, an air backdash, and nearly all of his 2 and 4 moves, which act as blink teleports. Chaining all these moves together will definitely take some getting used to, but leads to some of the most fun and unique movement in any fighting game. He can also stall his air momentum using 2FF or his signature move Captive Segment, aka Orb. The Orb doesn't serve as an attack on its own, but instead sends out a projectile after a set amount of time. This takes Seth's neutral from annoying to seriously scary, as the Orb will create a threat that the opponent has to go out of their way to eliminate. If they don't either destroy the Orb or hit Seth in time, they will be forced to either evade it or block, giving Seth an opportunity to dive in and begin his offense. His normals excel at up-close, strike-throw pressure, sporting best-in-class startup speed and frame data on block at the cost of low range. If he wants to prolong his offense for any extended period of time, he'll either have to dash in and reset his block streak, potentially leaving himself open to a mash-out, or he can rely on the Orb. Throwing one out at the end of a combo will give Seth access to a near guaranteed source of plus frames that can catch the opponent if they try to press. It also gives him a good opportunity to go for mix-ups, as it can help him confirm into a combo on hit, and keeps him safe on block. With the right setup, he's able to create unblockable situations with his aerial dive. Even though Seth offers an insane amount of freedom and offensive power, Taking full advantage of his toolkit is a demanding task, and screwing up his execution will leave you very vulnerable, as he has the lowest health out of the entire roster. If you don't mind sitting in training mode for a while, or just have severe ADHD and need to be zooming around the screen at all times, then slip away into the shadows with Seth. Strong players to watch include Nuts, Yona, and Oshihito.
よし、それじゃあちゃちゃっと片付けちゃいますか。
The ever-carefree Shrine Maiden Yuzuriha utilizes her mastery of Hyde to zone out any threat the knight throws her way. Nearly all of her moves are tied to her unique quick draw stance. Think of it like Johnny's Misfiner in Guilty Gear if it was on crack. Unlike Misfiner, which ends the stance after one slash, Yuzu can remain in the stance and perform successive slashes for as long as you hold down a button. You can even change which button's being held just as long as you don't let go. This technique of switching out buttons is called pianoing, and it's essential for almost every aspect of her execution. While these slashes are quite strong by themselves, this stance also grants her access to her 214 special, which serves as both a combo conversion tool and a source of plus frames on block. She also gains access to a variety of teleports, and from here you can kinda see what Yuzu's game plan is supposed to be. Hook at the opponent with her slashes, and vary up the timings of her frame traps until they flinch and get themselves hit. Confirm these half-screen hits into a combo, then rinse and repeat. If the opponent gets too close, simply teleport away from them, or anti-air them with a 2FF. This ancient zoning-focused fighting style seems insanely impressive until you realize its two glaring weaknesses. The first is that Yuzu has very few ways to open up patient opponents who are willing to block and play for the grid cycle. In order to enforce any sort of mix-up, she either has to stay closer than she'd usually want to in order to use her comboable throw, catch the opponent off guard with a gimmicky teleport, or charge a force function so that it becomes unblockable, though this also makes it really slow and avoidable. The second weakness is that she doesn't have that many techniques to help her out on defense. Her only invincible reversal costs meter and whiffs against opponents within point-blank range. More often than not, she'll have to rely on mashing out with her A buttons, which are fast for a zoner, or finding an opportunity to jump or teleport her way out of the corner. She also has a parry in the form of 4B, which nets her a combo if it hits, but it loses against lows, so you should probably only use it to call out predictable pokes and jump-ins in neutral. If you're ready to unleash your inner Mall Ninja and swiftly cut down your opponents from anywhere on screen, then take up Yuzuriha's precious heirloom blade and protect the knight with your own hands. Players to watch include Rurik, Kude, and Cow Defenestrator.
Leader of the villainous organization Amnesia, Hilda's perpetual hunger for power manifests itself as pure darkness, which spreads across the whole screen and overwhelms all who dare stand in her way. Like most secondary antagonists in anime fighters, Hilda is Underknight's archetypal zoner. Nearly all of her moves are dedicated to oppressive screen control, with even her normals boasting massive range. It's thanks to those normals that she's able to effectively pressure her opponents indefinitely. And since those little peons are too far away to contest, she's able to alternate between frame traps and generating plus frames with her skewer projectile and 623 special to her heart's content. The opponent can, however, find ways around the pressure, as most of her moves have long whiff recovery, and some even have dead zones where they won't connect at close range. An important part to playing Hilda effectively
is paying attention to how your opponent likes to approach you and responding accordingly. For instance, do they like jumping in? Swat them like the pathetic fly they are with one of your many anti-airs. Or are they perhaps playing more patiently and attempting to win the good cycle? Catch them shielding with your low-hitting spike or charge 5C overhead. Another overhead she can use is her character-defining linchpin, which you get by holding down a button and then releasing it, similar to Vatista's gems. Linchpin is also Hilda's main combo ender, as the knockdown it creates gives Hilda plenty of time to set up her terrifying Ukizemi. Her Condensity Gloom fires off a volley of projectiles that will leave the opponent blocking for quite a while. And while they're stuck, Hilda can perform one of the game's few true 50-50 mix-ups. She can also go for this mix-up after throwing out her metered Roomba move, which further boosts her set play and knockdown potential. While Hilda can go entire rounds trampling her opponents, it may only take one good call-out on the opponent's part for her reign of terror to come crumbling down. Much like her ego, Hilda's defense is notably fragile, as she sports no invincible reversal outside of those which the game's system mechanics provide her. If she wants to escape the corner and reclaim her dominance, she'll have to play it smart and find openings wherever she can. If you're fine holding down the fort every now and then in exchange for overwhelming screen presence that'll fill every opponent with despair, then give in to your dark side and play Hilda. High-level players to watch include Mawaru, Slush Rush Sweep, and Gonfield. Hilda's right-hand man, and if we're being honest, the real brains behind Amnesia Chaos, prefers not to get his hands dirty, opting instead to outsmart his opponents. To assist him during combat, he calls upon a powerful void known as Azi Dahaka. That's right, Chaos is Under Knight's designated puppet character, and as such, he shares a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses as puppet characters in other games. Unlike, say, Zato 1, where getting the puppet to function properly can be a challenge to newer players, Chaos's toolkit is fairly easy to understand. All of your normal moves are performed by Chaos himself, while all of his specials are tied to Azi. Azi will follow Chaos around for the most part, but you can make him move independently by holding down any button. Combine that with the ability to cancel Azi's specials into each other on hit and block, and you get a character that can apply pressure at any time and pose a substantial threat from anywhere on screen. He can also cancel Azi's specials back into his normals, allowing him to create plus frames on repeat and prolong his offense. The icon under Chaos's health bar indicates whether or not Azi is in the middle of an attack. Similar to how strings of normals work in this game, Azi can't use the same attack more than once in a string, and will have to return to neutral, as indicated by the icon turning green, before he can use that same special again. The icon also indicates when Azi is left vulnerable. Normally, the opponent has no way to interact with him, but when he performs an attack, the opponent is able to hit him, which will make Azi disappear for a couple of seconds. Within those couple seconds, Chaos is left profoundly vulnerable, as his only long-range tool that doesn't require Azi is 6C, which deflects projectiles but leaves him punishable on whiff. He also has no invincible reversals and has to rely on system mechanics and option selects in order to stay alive while he waits for Azi to return. Upon getting a hit, Chaos has a decision to make regarding what kind of knockdown he wants afterwards. He can either knock the opponent away and continue his zoning, or he can go for his infamous sandwich setups. By holding a button and then inputting 2-2 during its release, Azi will enter a unique stance that enhances his 2-3-6 swipes and 2-2 specials, and prevents the opponent from being able to walk through him. With Azi positioned behind the opponent like so, Chaos's pressure becomes incomprehensibly scarier as he gains access to a comboable throw and one of the game's few instances of a true left-right mix-up. If you love experimenting with different setups and pressure sequences, or you have a soft spot for animals, then playing Chaos will prove to be quite the intelligent choice. Strong players to watch include Snappy, Silicon, and Shimazaki. Guided by the wind and driven by a half-baked sense of revenge, Nanase dances through the night and blows away her competition with a well-rounded moveset that places a unique emphasis on aerial tools and a little bit of set play. The main glue that ties the rest of her kit together is her force function, a leap that lets her glide around freely, unlike regular jumps that have a set trajectory. She can cancel into her FF from any of her normals and even some of her specials, which gives her offense and neutral a sense of freedom and verticality unique to her, but also means you'll have to get used to her air moves. While in the air, she gains access to a wide variety of command normals that cover both air-to-air and air-to-ground situations, a safe-on-block dive kick, and most importantly, her fireball. A fireball flies at a slightly upwards angle and is mainly used as a source of plus frames during her offense, while B fireball falls to the ground before traveling forward. This gives her some solid Izumi during most of her corner knockdowns and serves as one of her most important neutral tools. With the projectile zipping across the ground, Nanase can run up behind it to enforce a strike throw situation, or shoot it back up into the air if the opponent tries to jump out of its way. Once she enters the mid-range, her excellent B and C normals let her contest space and apply stagger pressure from relatively safe distances. And at any point, she can mix up her opponent with her dashing normals, which are a low and overhead that have pretty similar animations. Her 2-1-4 tornadoes are super strong, but require a little extra thinking to be used effectively, something Nanase herself doesn't seem to do often. The massive destroy on it and its diving follow-up make it an excellent frame trap as well as a combo conversion tool off your longer range hits. But if you do it at the right spacing, it becomes plus on block too. Do it when you're too close, and you'll have to spend resources in order to not get punished. Thankfully, her metered options let her extend her turn pretty well, with 2-4C being plus on block regardless of the spacing, and 2-2C firing off a disc that lets her enforce a strike throw situation, or just punish whatever mashed out attempt the opponent makes. Her other disc specials are pretty versatile as well, with 2-2A being a safe block string ender and conversion tool, and 2-2B being pretty good for Izumi. Anyone getting Milia flashbacks? Last but not least is her sword card. On paper, it looks like a pretty good way to skip neutral and get in the opponent's face, but using it that way is like asking to get counter hit. Even if you cancel into one of its 3 follow-ups, you'll be punishable on block if you don't spend resources. The C version, however, has projectile invulnerability, and can single-handedly turn the tides in certain matchups. If you're looking for an all-rounder that'll help take your gameplay to wherever the winds guide you, then you won't go wrong with Nanase. Players to watch include Boltstra, Toxics, and Malarkey.
それじゃ行こうか姉さん。僕は姉さんについていくだけだよ。
Stricken by grief and driven mad by the night, Byakuya now follows the whim of a girl he believes to be his sister, ensnaring anyone who gets in their way with his webs of insanity. If you're playing Byakuya for any reason, it's most likely because of his webs. His most character-defining 2-1-4 special places a web at a different point on screen, depending on the button pressed. And these webs can make neutral uniquely difficult for the opponent, as they'll have their grid stolen from them regardless of whether they get hit or block it. Byakuya can also leap around the screen after placing a web, and can follow up with various attacks or even place another web to boost his momentum. The sheer variety of options makes him maddeningly hard to catch when in the air. His grounded neutral is quite effective as well, as his normals have some of the best reach in the entire game. And moves like Dashing C and his 2-2 ground spikes can snag opponents who are outside of his normal range. 2-2-C is especially scary, as it tracks the opponent from full screen and leaves him plus on block. 2-2-C is his only full screen tool, however, and combined with his lack of a meterless reversal, this speeds will have to play patiently against characters that can contest him outside of his preferred range. This is usually of no consequence to him, though. The chase makes it all the more fun when he finally catches his prey. His true game plan begins when he lands a hit, at which point he can confirm into his Rekka series, which itself can cancel into his webs and all the follow-ups that come from that. Upon carrying the opponent to the corner, he can spend meter on 63C to trap them for a long period of time, allowing him to surround the opponent with webs as they wake up. This setup is what makes Byakuya's already threatening offense downright terrifying. The grounded web will force them to block on their wake-up, and the other two are waiting to catch them if they try to escape. The webs also let him combo off of his throws, allowing him to root back into 623C and trap the opponent over and over until he's completely devoured them. Once the opponent's been thoroughly conditioned into sitting still, Byakuya can really start to have fun and throw out all manner of gimmicks and mix-ups, ranging from a force function overhead to a command grab that can be feinted, to multiple feints off of his leaping attacks that include highs and lows. If you like to play elusive like a bug you can't quite swat before swooping down to entangle the opponent and watch them as they helplessly squirm around in the corner, then allow the threads of sanity within you to unfurl like Byakuya's. Top players to watch include Big Black, Orie, and Tomio.
Sa te, このクライマックス、存分に暴れてやろうか!
The standoffish, aspiring rider Phonon throws herself into the night at the speed of sound in search of excitement and meaning. Drunk by her newly awakened power, she's able to lock the opponent down with her long-range normals and projectiles and make the match all about herself. Moves like 4B and the second hit of 5C both vacuum the opponent towards her, allowing her to control her opponent's position during a block streak and continually reset her pressure with spaced out beats. She can also create plus frames using her sonic fireballs, which can also be performed in the air and used to help her approach as well. Her fireballs, among other moves, can also be enhanced thanks to her metered install, a move that sometimes acts as a second change shift thanks to its ability to return her to neutral after nearly all of her moves and alter their frame data on block. Enhanced fireballs feature boosted damage and better frame data on block, and can be used in tandem with all of her other moves to take her pressure from frustrating to practically impossible to contest. Her 2-2 specials leave her airborne, and while she's up there, she's able to stall her air momentum using some of the largest air normals in the entire game and can pressure the opponent while in the air for a good while. Once she lands a hit, she can confirm into her 2 and 4 Rekkas, knock the opponent down, and start her pressure all over again. Her anti-air options are strong, but can be awkward to use, as her force function is slower to start up than most anti-airs, and 623A requires a full special input to use, as opposed to a mere button press. Outside of her fireballs, her other long-range poking options include 22B, 623B, and 3C, which is a full-screen low. While she specializes in walling off the opponent and berating them from range, she can get pretty frustrated when put on the back foot herself. Her only reversal costs meter, and she lacks quick enough buttons to reliably mash out with. Phonon players will also have to keep the opponent's shielding habits in mind, as mindless pressure will give them plenty of opportunities to take hold of the grid cycle, and her overheads like 66B, 22C, or the B follow-up from her 6FF are all pretty telegraphed, so they're less used as an actual mix-up and more of a way to catch people sleeping at the wheel. You'll have to rely on strike throw to open people up, which for Phonon is a bit harder than most, due to her being a range specialist. If you're looking to play a single-player game, or you spend a lot of time reading or writing fanfiction, then carve out your own sound with Phonon. Strong players to watch include Lufel, Silent, and Glacy. Hyperactive and hypermobile, Mika is the Elite Crisis wildcard who zooms across the screen like a malfunctioning firework and could explode at any second. Despite not being related to wolves in any way, she utilizes her rocket-propelled gauntlets to emulate the iconic Beast Cannon style move that can be seen in the likes of Darkstalkers, BlazBlue, and even Skullgirls. With it, she can fly around in pretty much any direction she wants, stay in the air and out of the opponent's range, and then come down on their heads out of nowhere with a JC or a force function dive. And sometimes she can even create these really hard to block left-right mix-ups. If the opponent ever tries to contest her in the air, she can effortlessly swap them back down with Mika's Tornado, the metered version of which allows you to confirm into a combo afterward, and serves as your invincible DP. Her other combo tools include a command grab. Outside of combos though, this grab is techable, so it's mostly used to discourage shielding during crashing. Mika also has some strong ways to approach from the ground, such as a fast run speed, her 6 speed tackle, and Mika's Impact, a spin knuckle style move that can be used to call out projectiles. Her normals are pretty stubby, but they come out quick, making them useful for up-close strike throw pressure. Said strike throw is bolstered by her metered 360 command grab, and a multitude of moves she can use to beat out throw techs and mash-out attempts, such as 3B, 2FF, and her 6XC overhead. At a high level, Mika needs to approach from weird angles and stick to her opponent's face like glue. Otherwise, her subpar range, neutral game, and defense will make themselves pretty apparent. But if you're just looking to shut your brain off and go buck wild, Mika is literally the best character to do that with. Some would even say that's the optimal way to play her. Players to watch include Akimi, Veil, and Takamatsu.
さて、行こうか。最後となる夜へと。
Bringer of calamity and revered martial artist, Enkidu ventures into the night in order to test his mettle against powerful foes. While he is but a mere man traversing through the world of the supernatural, his hulking physique and well-honed techniques allow him to trade blows with all manner of inbirth. Just as in real combat, mastering Enkidu is all about knowing yourself and knowing your enemy, as his toolkit is designed around making hard callouts on what the opponent wants to do and capitalizing on their mistakes. The most apparent example of this philosophy in action comes in the form of his parries. While it can be tempting to use them as a wake-up reversal, they don't activate on the first frame unless you either chain shift or spend meter, so using them carelessly will get you punished if the opponent attempts to meaty or throw you. Instead, the main use for these parries is to call out predictable attack patterns and gaps in the opponent's pressure, though they can also catch stray pokes in neutral if you have a good read. Keep in mind, you will likely have to rely on good reads to make it past neutral when playing Enkidu, as his reach is one of the few things he cannot improve with training. In order to compete with the rest of the cast, you will have to use moves like 4C and Charge 3C that are designed to negate projectiles, a far-moving dive kick that can be made plus on block, and a 6 FF, which can armor through any kind of attack. In situations where those moves won't be as effective, however, he will have to work his way in the old-fashioned way and play around his opponent's tools and behaviors. Once he does get in, he will quickly realize that he has been training his entire life for the moment he gets the opponent in the corner. His style of pressure is a little esoteric, as his free beats leave a bit to be desired. In exchange, he has a more guaranteed way to reset pressure in the form of his stomping specials. The timing of the stomp varies depending on the button pressed, with the longer versions being more advantageous on block. Be sure to vary the timings and keep the opponent guessing on when they should mash, because Enkidu also has a unique trait that makes the majority of his normals do more damage and hit stun on counter hit, leading to insanely rewarding combo damage. Combined with some gimmicky mix-ups like a charged 5C overhead or a metered command grab, Enkidu's pressure can become incredibly hard to escape once it gets started. If you're looking to truly challenge yourself and get massively rewarded for proper decision-making, then hone your martial arts skills with Enkidu. Players to watch include CG, Bakir, and Young Poob.
赤騎士ワーグナーの力、とくと見せてやろう。
One of the strongest soldiers Elite Christ has to offer, Wagner takes the rushdown archetype and holds it to perfection. Nearly all of her tools are geared towards unstoppable offense. One of her biggest strengths actually comes in the form of her normals, many of which feature best-in-class startup speed for the ranges they cover, egregiously long stagger windows, and excellent frame data on block with rebeats. 5B and 6B are both standouts in this regard. This makes her fundamental strike throw pressure some of the scariest out of the whole cast. She also has 2 overheads in the form of her 6C and charged force function, with the latter being 0 on block if left uncharged, leading to a safe place to end your block string or potentially reset her pressure. Upon landing a hit, she can heat up her offensive game plan even further using her install specials. During the end, or sometimes even the middle of some combos, she'll be given an opportunity to apply a buff to either her sword or her shield. When her sword is buffed, the majority of her normals will deal chip damage, much like Hyde, and her Kugel Blitz special and its follow-up will be enhanced, allowing them to be more useful in combos and has a pressure extender. Meanwhile, buffing her shield will give her force function and Stormbreaker special the ability to armor through enemy attacks. And Stormbreaker also becomes advantageous on block. Using either of the aforementioned specials will consume the corresponding buff, forcing you to reapply them. With her multitude of offensive capabilities, any hit she gets can become the fuel that will let her flame spread onwards to victory. Lighting that first spark, however, is sometimes easier said than done, as placing all of your eggs in the offensive basket means you are left with very few ways to control space during neutral. Her only real neutral tools she has are 6-6C, an admittedly strong and quick mid-screen low, and 2-1-4C, which travels very far. 2-1-4B can also work as a get-in tool, but only if you have the shield buff applied. Otherwise, you are risking to get counter-hit. For the most part, you will have to work your way in slowly but surely, and find creative ways to work around your opponent's neutral habits. If you are a no-nonsense type of person who wants a straightforward yet highly effective game plan, then kindle the flames of purification with Wagner. High-level players to watch include Mario, Leadblade, and Knots.
行こう、ロンドレキアライト。この夜の先へと。
The British Shield's very own prodigy and rival to Wagner.
Londrekia Light utilizes the element of ice to its fullest, sporting a well-rounded toolkit with multiple ways to keep the opponent frozen in place. His neutral is fairly solid, featuring a fast fireball, a metered downpour of icicles, and excellent mid-range pokes such as 5B, 2C, and 4C. The reward off of his neutral tools on block or a hit can be quite generous, but only if you know how to properly capitalize off of your hits. You see, his fireball doesn't seem that strong at first glance, but when it or a select few other moves connect with the opponent, a debuff will be applied to them, as indicated by this icon. The next time they get hit by one of these moves, they'll be frozen. This allows Lon to get full combo conversions off of random stray hits, which, thanks to his circular step Rekka series, often take the opponent straight to the corner. Once the corner is secured, Lon can use his infamous Snow Blossom Okizeme to restrict the opponent's options and get them to crack like thin ice under his pressure. The delayed projectile that Snow Blossom creates gives Lon an opportunity to either bait out reversals and mash-out attempts, or go for a strike-throw mix-up. If the opponent attempts to tech the throw and fails, they'll be frozen and sent into another combo. If they choose to block, Lon can simply enforce his turn using 6B or his charged B fireball to create plus frames and give him opportunities to go for his other mix-up options. His 4C can be followed up with either an overhead or a low A Rekka. He can also charge his C Rekka to turn it into an overhead, or cross over to the other side of the opponent with a charged B Rekka. Bear in mind that going for Rekka pressure will end your turn if blocked unless you have meter or chain shift to spend. Nearly every combo leads back to Blossom Oki, so once you get the corner, the opponent will likely never get a chance to thaw out and escape again. One last thing to note is Londrekia's defense, as it is extremely powerful but comes with a few caveats. His force function acts as his invincible Dragon Punch, which makes it very easy to mash out with, but unlike regular DPs, it is still vulnerable to throws. If you prefer to keep a cool head while playing and want a reliable yet rewarding game plan, then Londrekia will help you skate circles around the opponent. Top players to watch include Foxo42, Kaji, Defiant, and Reflective Jade.
シックスエグゼクターかぐや参ります。
Even as the markswoman of the Lichtkreis, Kaguya doesn't seem to take things too seriously. And why should she? With her twin pistols in hand, she boasts one of the most well-rounded movesets in the game, and is able to dance with the opponent from any range. Her guns may not fire actual bullets, but they do fire full-screen lasers with 236B and 66C, and that's pretty much the next best thing. The former has a follow-up that allows her to frame trap from a distance, but requires meter to confirm into a combo, while the latter can combo meterlessly and leaves her in an advantage on block, but takes longer to start up. Combine this with her unique ability to air dash, as well as throw grenades while in the air, and you get a character that can be extremely obnoxious to deal with during neutral, flying from one side of the screen to the other and constantly harassing from afar. If the opponent tries to jump over her laser beams, then she can kick them right back down with a 4B anti-air or get into the mid-range, where most approaches will be stuffed by pokes like 2C or her 236A Rekka series. Her offense is just as solid as her neutral, sporting quick normals with good stagger windows and rebeat options, as well as a handful of unorthodox moves like 6C, which beats out lows and throws, and 3C, which comes with multiple follow-ups that can be used to frame trap, side swap, or even reset your turn if you have resources to spend. Outside of staggers and frame traps though, she doesn't have too many ways to open the opponent up, often having to end pressure with her Rekkas, which can be unsafe on block. Her real scary offense begins when she gets a hit and carries the opponent all the way to the corner, at which point Kaguya can end her combo with her grenade, which forces the opponent to block on wake up, and opens opportunities to go for these near unreactable mix-ups. The opponent will have to guess between a low, an overhead, or a comboable throw, all of which let her convert right back into the same grenade setup and run the mix again and again. Her defense, on the other hand, is solid but not as strong as other all-rounders necessarily. Despite having a DP-style move, only the mirrored version acts as an invincible reversal. She also has a spot dodge in the form of her force function, but unlike Linne's, it doesn't become active on the first frame. Instead of it being a reversal, it's more often used to call out predictable neutral pokes and fireballs. If you're looking for a unique and creative, yet adaptive and well-rounded playstyle, then embrace the freedom of Kaguya's twin-barreled dance. Players to watch include Linne, Nox, and Mawaru.
よし、今日からお前も EFG の一員だ。
The enthusiastic vice president of the Exist Force Guardians, Tsurugi proudly takes up his shield to protect his fellow classmates and bulldoze his way through the opponent. His ability to ignore most attacks and rush you down is second to none, and that's in large part thanks to his unique force function. At the cost of his grid draining over time, he'll enter a stance that automatically guards against any attack that isn't a low or a grab. He can move around while in the stance and even perform a dash, a slide, or a leap that actually beats lows and throws. This stance is integral to Tsurugi's neutral game and offense, as it both lets him force his way in and can be cancelled into from most of his normals and specials, allowing his whole toolkit to flow into itself seamlessly. After blocking a few hits and making his way into the mid-range, Tsurugi can lunge at the opponent and catch him off guard with moves like 6-6B, his Jade 2C dive kick, or 2-6C if he wants to spend meter. His pressure game consists of fairly standard strike throw with a few unique twists. His normals all have good range and stagger windows, but some of them also feature guard points if they're charged, letting him crush smash out attempts with ease. He can use his Rekka series to hit confirm or frame trap, and he can cancel that Rekka back into its stance in order to keep his turn on block and force the opponent into rock, paper, scissors style situations. He also sports a command grab, though I wouldn't recommend playing Tsurugi like a grappler, as all versions of the grab are gold throws that leave massive tech windows. The grab instead sees use as a combo tool and a way to call out and punish the opponent's shielding habits. Ironically, the only time Tsurugi's shield doesn't come into play is on his defense. Thankfully, he's got a meterless DP, a 5-frame 2A, and a dive kick to keep him covered. If you want to become a walking tank whose advance can't be stopped by anyone, then become a member of the EFG and join Tsurugi on the front lines. Players to watch include Nega Reaper, Red Blade, Kyo, and Pierre.
さあ行こうか。最後の夜の始まりへと。
Linne's brother and the true final boss of Undernight, Kuon finally emerges to enact his plan and bring an end to everything. Being a rebirth means that he is among the most powerful beings within this story, and that can be felt in every aspect of his gameplay. His toolkit can be seen as the culmination of everything French Bread has developed up to this point, borrowing some of the most dominant and iconic moves from their game catalog and rolling them into one character. To rule over the neutral, Kuon unleashes a laser beam reminiscent of Roa's lightning needles for Melty Beam. These beams can be followed up with a Pillar of Light, another French Bread staple that can be seen in the likes of Hime and Powered CL, to frame trap the opponent from a distance and crush any hopes of potentially using their own projectiles. This pillar can also be unleashed as a separate move and serves an important role in combos. Another important neutral tool is his pinwheel, which serves a similar purpose to Carmine's, but is originally seen with Akiha. Charged 214A presents a looming threat that can keep the opponent out or let Kuon get in. Pinwheel also serves as a strong Okizumi tool, either forcing the opponent to block or preventing them from escaping an impending mix-up at the hands of Kuon's force function. By pressing force function, Kuon will take flight and be able to attack from any direction. He can strike from above, land and go for a low, or even come from behind. His 623 teleports are prominent combo tools, and the air versions can make his mix-ups even more ambiguous. Outside of mix-up situations, his offense is a bit different than most. While his rebeats are rather lackluster, his plethora of command normals and ability to reset pressure at any point using flight can keep the opponent completely overwhelmed. Even on defense, his sheer power can strike fear into the attacker, as he sports a massive flash kick style reversal. While Kuon's power is immense and seemingly lacking in weaknesses, it has corrupted him over time, causing him to lag behind in the race for grid. His force function is integral to both his neutral and pressure, but excessive use of it will often cost him the cycle. On top of that, many of his ranged tools can be susceptible to shielding if used predictably. Self-control is just as important as controlling the opponent. If you seek a wide array of skills that will let you erase all who stand in your way, then you shall live to see the end by Kuon's side. Players to watch include Shaylee, Musin, and Safe.
Undernight's first DLC character, Uzuki, brings a ghoulish new playstyle to the game that focuses on trickery and space control. The first thing you'll notice about her is the massive range on her B and C normals. This lets you know right off the bat that Uzuki thrives in pressuring the opponent from ranges they can't easily contest and harassing them until they flinch. Once the opponent is conditioned into sitting still, she can mix them up with a 4C overhead or take a ride on her skeletal dolphin, which leaves her safe on block at a range that's risky for the opponent to mash on, and gives Guilty Gear players the world over PTSD. Dolphin also serves as her primary combo tool, and after using it to confirm, she can use her hat to apply a poison debuff that slowly drains the opponent's grid and health. Then set up a wide variety of Okizemi situations that'll keep the opponent thoroughly spooked. After most knockdowns, she'll have enough time to pull out an item from her bag. The bottle applies poison, the bomb can be kicked around until it detonates for big damage, and the ragdoll will home in on the opponent and attack them. For most of you, this would remind you of Faust, but unlike the doctor's item toss, Uzuki knows which item she'll pull out next, and can plan her offense accordingly. Play your cards right, and you can set up some nightmarish mix-ups and combos. Now all these offensive tools seem fun and all, but how are you supposed to be able to get in and use them? Thankfully, Uzuki's tricks don't stop while she's playing neutral, as she can use her ground spikes to poke from long range, and her force function to float in the air, or turn into a puddle that lets her evade projectiles and swap sides with the opponent. Last but most certainly not least, she can whip out a giant coffin and enter a stance that leads to a plethora of follow-ups. The coffin supplements every aspect of her game plan, giving her access to unique aerial movement options, low and overhead attacks from long range, and a multitude of ways to maintain her frame advantage on block, or just catch the opponent off guard. The only time Uzuki's supply of gimmick starts to run dry is during defense, as her only invincible reversal costs meter. Even then, she can catch the offender by surprise with the bar options like 6C, which comes out super quick for the range it covers. If you just got back from a Hot Topic shopping spree and are looking for a character with devilishly versatile tools to keep the opponent guessing from any range, then summon the Black Monger herself to fight by your side. players to watch include Boldstruck, Zyma, and Atari.
晩機会が多さオーガいざ参るなんて
The suave Demon King, once thought to be dead, now roams the night searching for answers and a good fight. Ogre is a bruiser with unorthodox tools that lend themselves to constant pressure and a bit of set play. In order to really get his game plan going, he has to get in and score a hit, which is often easier said than done. He has a handful of tools to help him out in neutral, such as his force function, an air projectile, and a lariat that harkens back to Slayer's Mappa Punch. While these moves tend to get outclassed by similar tools on other characters, clever use of each of them is essential to getting in. His most defining move is his command grab, which serves as both a strike throw mix-up tool and his most common combo ender. What sets it apart is its ability to plant a bomb onto the opponent, which will detonate after approximately 5 seconds. Assuming you don't detonate it manually, of course. While the bomb is active, Ogre is allowed to really press the issue on his offense, as much like Seth's orb, the detonation scares the opponent into sitting still, makes unsafe moves plus on block, and nets him a combo off otherwise inconsequential hits. Within those 5 seconds, Ogre can use his forward advancing C normals to stick close to the opponent and bide his time until it's time for detonation, at which point his mix-ups go from a decent threat to downright terrifying. His dash normals and A lariat follow-ups both serve as built-in high-low 50/50s, and he also sports one of the best 6B overheads in the game. If you don't want to go for mix or use up all your normals in a string, you can use his punching wrenches to detonate the bomb manually and either reset his pressure on block or go for big damage on hit. If the bomb's already been used up, then 22BC will work just fine for resetting his turn. If you got meter to spare, you can use the EX version of this grab to extend his combo so that the bomb goes off only a second after the opponent wakes up rather than 5. This not only makes the incoming mix-up scarier, but prevents the opponent from mashing out. Normally, the bomb goes away if Ogre is hit, but it'll persist if it reaches the 1 second mark. If you crave a simple rushdown game plan that focuses on reaching and maintaining a distinct win condition, then Ogre will proudly welcome you through the gates of Hades. Players to watch include Defiant, Vincent, and Foxo42.
Harbinger of the End, and newest DLC character to Under Night, Izumi commands the waters themselves to defend herself against any threat the night has to offer. Much like the changing of the tides, Izumi's playstyle constantly flows between a calm defense and intense rushdown, and the balancing act between the two is all thanks to her mysterious fish companion, Elfie. At the start of the round, Elfie takes the form of a shawl around Izumi's neck, but she can be summoned using Izumi's force function, which acts as an invincible reversal. When Elfie is summoned, Izumi trades that reversal for a unique command dash that lets her fly across the screen and close distances with a splash. She also gains 3 follow-ups to said dash, which also apply to her 236 Rekka series. Those follow-ups being a plus on block pressure reset tool, a lunge that passes through projectiles and leaves her at even greater advantage on block, and a scarily fast overhead. Getting hit, using the lunge or overhead follow-ups, or using her Air 236 special, will take Elfie away. While Izumi bides her time for her fish to return, she has plenty of ways to keep the pace of the match in her favor. Her normals boast solid range and have unique properties such as moving her forward, backward, or coming with built-in follow-ups. all of which allow her to prolong her block strings and maintain proper spacing. While this is a bit of a gimmick and can be countered, it's also worth noting that Charge 5C leaves Izumi airborne, letting her reset her pressure or go for some disorienting mix-ups. To cover farther ranges in neutral, she has a fast low poke in the form of 6-6B, and the charged version of her B-Rekka, which creates a really strong projectile. She can also blow bubbles using her various 2-1-4 specials, which enhance her neutral further and even give her a little Okizemi. 2-1-4A shoots the bubbles out immediately, while 2-1-4B doesn't fire them off until the projectile gets close to the opponent. Much like Dizzy's I use this to catch fish special in Guilty Gear. And 2-1-4BC forces the opponent to block from pretty far away, letting Izumi get in easily. Charge 2-1-4B and 2-1-4C creates one big bubble that bounces if you hit it, and traps the opponent if it connects with them. Using 2-1-4C as a combo ender gives Izumi ample time to set up another bubble and force a strike throw situation on the opponent's wake-up. Lastly, Waterfall is an overhead projectile that summons Elfie upon completion and can be difficult to punish thanks to its delayed follow-up. If you're looking to stay fluid and flexible while drowning your opponent during offense, then you won't find a better catch than Izumi. Players to watch include Toast, Rurik, and 2GB combo.
10年程度ではまだまだ戦いの年季というものを教えてあげましょう。
The protagonist of Melty Blood seems to have lost her way while headed towards Type Lumina, and found a new home in the Hollow Knight. Eltnum's classic Melty moveset serves her well in Under Night, granting her unmatched versatility with equal strength on both offense and defense. For her neutral special, she wields a gun. In neutral, her 2-3-6 gives her a blisteringly long and fast poke to check the opponent in mid-range, as well as a full-screen projectile if she chooses to charge it. Her warning shot is also one of her best combo starters and an integral part to the rest of her combo structure. Unlike Kaguya, Eltnum needs to reload her gun after its 13-bullet clip has been emptied. Most of the time, she does this at the end of a combo, as her knockdowns give her enough time to reload and still perform immediate. If you press C at the right time during her reload, then you gain some extra grid and the bullets become enhanced, dealing more damage during combos and giving them better frame advantage on block. Once she gets a knockdown and reloads, her easy access to plus frames combined with her powerful, forward advancing B-normals make her stagger pressure and strike throw insanely scary. Said strike throw is complemented by a variety of moves that counter throw techs and defensive option selects, such as 6-6B and her infamous assault into ADP OS Crush, both of which can be cancelled into Slide Air to remain safe on block or potentially mix up the opponent with the unblockable B version. Outside of the range of her A and B normals, Eltnum can still apply some substantial pressure using her Aetherlight Wire, which gives her C normals crazy range and lets her snag her opponents from mid-range using a far-reaching lull. If all those insane strengths worth enough, she also has some of the best defense in the entire game. On top of having an invincible Dragon Punch, and all the option selecting tools you could ask for, she also has a metered horizontal form of her EX Cutting Sink, which nets her a full combo on hit and lets her reload after the knockdown. All of a sudden, she has access to her own win condition off of a reversal. The only real limit to Eltnum's capabilities is your own skill as a player and ability to pick out which of her many tools is the right one for the situation. If you want a real Swiss Army knife of a character that massively rewards you for digging into the intricacies of the game, then it's about time you became one of Eltnum's rookies. Players to watch include Omnidig, Stang, and Sinaru.
戦闘準備。これより進軍行動に移る。
Hailing from the 2007 Dojin game Akatsuki Blitzkopf, the titular Akatsuki finds himself trapped by the knight while attempting to complete a mission. While he was a Shoto in his home game, he is decidedly an in-fighter and under-knight. A lot of the traits he carries over from Blitzkopf, such as his step dash and a double jump, alongside his super short-range normals, force him to approach neutral a bit differently than the rest of the cast. Most of the time, he is forced to adapt to the opponent's pace during neutral and use dash blocking and his fireball to search for openings to get in. Once he is in though, he becomes arguably one of the most powerful characters in the game. What his buttons lack in range, they more than make up for in frame data. Without even rebeating, he can leave himself at 0 on block or even plus with some buttons. Combined with a step dash, which specializes in covering short distances quickly, this creates near endless pressure sequences with multiple reset points and a throw whose threat can be felt at all times. Even if he pushes himself out enough for his dash to become reactable, he can cover himself and continue his frame advantage using his fireballs. The opponent will likely be too scared to flinch, as Akatsuki sports some of the highest combo damage in the game, especially if he gets the corner or starts the combo with his 6C. Most combos will end with his infamous chest stroke, an otherwise awkward yet versatile move. 214A finds use as a fairly safe block string ender that lets Akatsuki enforce RPS afterwards, and 214B's forward movement make it useful as a committal neutral cloak or a way to stay close during pressure and guarantee a reset if he has resources. Akatsuki's defense is nothing to scoff at either, as he not only sports an invincible reversal, but also a frame 1 parry in the form of his force function, which nets you a brief combo afterwards. The metered version of this parry nets him a bigger combo and leaves him at an advantage if the follow-up attack is blocked. If you value simplicity and effectiveness above all else, or just want to play the Japanese equivalent to Captain America, then join Akatsuki in his war to get home. High-level players to watch include Twang, Squish, and Jushichi.